1570, 2231 ചെയ്യാം. 2000 വിലക്കേ വേണ്ടേ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. ഇത് പുള്ളി വെച്ച ഫ്ലെയിം നമ്മളെ ഏരിയയിൽ നിന്നൊക്കെ. So do you have Abdul madam contact me? This brings us to the point where we should understand how a pandemic can kind of impact the slowdown, and how did it kind of fructify. I think the first thing that the group saw somewhere around the late January, which was the Chinese New Year around the third week of January, and that is where kind of COVID was seen to be the highest in China, and it also kind of saw a simultaneous lockdown of the Chinese manufacturing plants, right? And China at that point in time, and today, is one of the largest manufacturers for the world. Uh, even if I'm not trying to be generic, even today, as in even if you move out of China, this manufacturing standstill was the first stage. Okay? And then even in India, you would have seen when the lockdown got announced, you saw a lot of lockdowns, a lot of people trying to move back to their houses, a lot of factories getting shut. You can say that not only the larger plants, some of the larger plants were still operating, but there were those small and medium enterprises who depended on their small time manufacturing setup. Those were kind of shut down. Right? And once that happened, if you remember, everyone is part of the value chain. Right? You step up from one process to the other, and one of the legs is squeezed and has broken up. So that led to a lot of supply chain disruptions. So that kind of started was still kind of provide some amount of manpower to run them, but there were no revenues for those malls, right? So that cascade of blockages that happened, that basically culminated in this entire economy to kind of come to a standstill. That is why I thought there was a mistake, right? I I hope I have been clear around how each of these legs are working. If you have any queries here, we can talk it offline or I can take it. Um, so this is just to kind of again highlight the sense of competition that we had around the GDP forecast across some of these larger advanced and emerging markets, such as what you see as the green with the light blue line, and the average, which is probably a mid-shade of green. Right? So one of the key highlights of this chart, if you see, is that advanced economies were always assumed to be growing slower than the emerging economies, primarily for various reasons. One of them being the emerging economies by themselves where the manufacturing or rather the services and product suppliers to the globe, and they also had a lot of domestic consumption. If you look at China, India, even Russia, Brazil, or rather what we call as the BRICS countries, also have a very strong domestic economy around them. Less so than Russia because of the commodities, oil being their major commodity, and that economy sustains around. But having said that, at least some of these larger economies were expected to kind of catch up faster, would react lesser to this pandemic situation and then catch up, right? Uh, Maybe the indications were probably, as a whole, the emerging economies will probably catch up and probably reach a 7% growth rate by the end of 2021. Mind you, these are all calendar years, which is what this IMF and World Bank put out. But then, what actually happened in India as a projection? What you would see India. So compare this in 2020, the entire emerging market bank had moved to a -1, whereas they released that India was expected to probably be at a 1.9 positive by FY 2020, and then expected to go back at the rate of 7.4% per annum. Um, as per IMF, and this is probably somewhere around now. What happened when April approached? So if you look to the left-hand side of the chart, if you look at some of these numbers, you started seeing Canada, UK, US falling much, much farther than what they were expected. Uh, China was still positive, India was still expected to be positive. This data came out to be about maybe somewhere around in the range of -20, right? But the key highlight here is if you look at the entire snapshot of these countries, the only two countries who were supposed to be performing better than the rest of the world were India and China, right? And at that point in time, this is what actually happened. If you look at the bottom half of the chart, you actually start seeing the actual performance of some of these larger economies and a lot of these Asian economies. India, probably the real numbers were probably one of the most weaker numbers that we saw. And till that point in time, and even today, if you have heard the policymakers of India, the discussion has always been between saving a life versus saving the economy per se. So what I call it as the tussle between G1 and GVK, right? And so around March and April, you saw some of these industry leaders speak about uh, the current state of affairs of the economy as seen from the lens of the societal action, right? So Adar Punawala, as you would already know, he is one of the pioneers in the vaccination space. economic danger of the pandemic outbreak was exponentially greater than its health risks. So this is thought around the impact that the pandemic had on the economy versus what it was expected to have on the health infrastructure and the ecosystem around that. Mr. Narayan would be again, as you would be aware, his responses and somewhere around in mid 2020 said before, India may see more deaths from hunger, I'm sorry for the title, from hunger than from the pandemic. So this in a way shifted the outlook from COVID being a health scare to COVID being a anthropological scare or maybe a social scare, as in the way for a country like India, which had very limited amount of social stability infrastructure in place, we started seeing a lot of impact to livelihoods per se, especially around the bottom of the pyramid livelihoods and a lot of the mid-income livelihoods, right? So, and most of us would have experienced it maybe directly or indirectly through our day-to-day movements around the city, or maybe through news channels, or maybe through various other mechanisms, right? Or maybe some of you who were probably in Mysore in your classroom wanted to go back to your respective houses now that the lockdown was limited. We saw how easy or difficult it was to get back, and depending upon where you were and how well prepared you were prior to this lockdown. So having said that, let's move to the next section, which is what is called as the new normal. So what is this new normal? So you have seen lockdowns and then some of this unlockdowns, right? And unlockdowns started coming with their own set of rules, started coming with their own not only hygiene parameters, but how you are supposed to conduct business, how you are supposed to conduct yourself in society as well. So, in a way, uh, no one is aware even today as in what is going to be the new normal. How can we as a society adapt to the new normal and go about our daily routine? How do we go about our businesses? How do we go about our livelihoods? How do we go about our maybe what do you put it as in what was normal for us last Christmas may not be the same this Christmas, or maybe the last Diwali versus this Diwali, or maybe the last Dasara to this Dasara, right? So, uh, the idea is there is a little bit of uncertainty, and the idea of taking care of the uncertainty, how we are able to plan it, how we are able to kind of take uncertainty along with us and go about conducting our business will depend on how quickly we can recover from it. So, just to quickly, on a lighter note, how it has impacted our classrooms. So, if you ever assume that you need not be in a classroom setup to be having exposure to such kind of events, right? So yesterday you had two great people to speak to you. Today you have me and a lot of other people who have spoken to you, and this is something which will continue. And I'm sure a lot of you have now kind of gotten uh, accustomed around Zoom, around Meet. A lot of it were probably non-existent in your mobile phones or in your laptops as late as March of 2020, right? So what I'm trying to say is this has become the new normal, and we are now very much used to it. As in, this is something which has become a routine for us, right? So then, let us quickly see how this machine generally works, right? And then, at this point in time, probably if any of you is would want to kind of interact, I mean, can I pose you a question here? That if you take me into a normal day for you, uh, somewhere around, let's say last Diwali, right? If anyone would want to volunteer as to how did your day go in the previous Diwali? How did you go about your previous Diwali day celebration? Anyone would want to share? in any way person, right? So maybe I'm just giving you one example. The positive emotions that are attached with the past. Maybe in Bombay kind of a setup, in Mumbai kind of a setup, uh, you always end up buying new sets of clothes. Maybe you kind of get your house cleaned up, maybe painted, maybe give out bonuses to your domestic health drivers. Maybe you receive and exchange gifts with a lot of your friends and family, right? And maybe you end up cooking some real food delicacies around at home, maybe sweet treats, etc., etc., right? So look at it this way from a financial perspective, right? So new clothes, you have gone out and shopped a lot. Maybe for the entire family, you may have visited by surprise some of these larger malls, and when you visited these malls to buy clothes, you may have also ended up eating at the food court, etc., etc. Maybe when you are giving out bonuses to your maids and domestic helps and drivers, they would use that money to go and spend. Maybe you would have bought, how do you put it, decorative lights. Maybe you would have hired painters to kind of spruce up your walls, right? Look at it as in there are various elements around your spending, around an event. Having said that, even on a normal day, when you step out of the house, you go and get into a taxi or you go and get into a normal bus, go to your place of study or your place of work, maybe chit chat with your friends, okay, and they have lunch either at the canteen or you order out food. Maybe towards the evening you visit a restaurant and have probably a quick snack or whatever it is, or probably you go and watch a movie and then come back. Maybe if it is too late in the evening, you again take back a taxi and come back home. And just this is anecdotal. Maybe this is true in Mumbai, but in Mysore you probably would be using bikes. So just to kind of give you an anecdote as to what happens, right? So today, I do not know how many of us have stepped out of our houses for at least going to a mall, going to the mall to purchase something. Maybe it is a apparel, maybe it is a shoe, maybe it is a tie, maybe it is any domestic item. I do not think many of us would have moved. I'm sure a lot of us have started ordering in food rather than visiting a restaurant, right? I'm sure none of us have visited a movie theater at all, right? So look at it as in on a day-to-day basis, you would also realize how important your spending was for the economy and what is called as a money multiplier, right? So a lot of you have uh, come across this concept in probably economics 101 about the money multiplier. So this is exactly what the situation is on the left hand side, right? Now expand the scope from you being an individual to you being an economy at large. Maybe the government is also involved, a business is involved, you as a household or an individual is involved. So these are the three key pieces of the economy that you kind of go to a 50,000 feet view. Having said that, what had happened is you saw labor layoffs, you saw a reduced footfall into the stores, which kind of stunted out businesses. Government was not able to kind of collect as much of taxes because there were not much revenues, and that is something that kind of slowed down to government revenues as well, right? And as we discussed, what was the impact on the household? One interesting piece that I wanted to share with you how it also impacts financial growth. So what happens is, let's say, uh, maybe this year you wanted to upgrade uh, your television, or maybe you wanted to upgrade your mobile phone, right? So you would probably either go to Amazon or you probably walk into the local store and buy the latest piece of phone. And in many cases, you would have ended up taking it on loan, right? So if you take it on loan, there is an entire as in tax significant work that goes behind the financial services as an industry. You deposit money into a bank, that money is being used to give out loans to the needy, and the bank makes money by giving you X% of return on your savings bank or your term deposits, but taking Y% from having made that loan. And the difference of Y minus X is what keeps their business model running, right? The household financial institution equation was that. The household trading partners equation is, as I explained, the way you go about it, the entire ecosystem, the retailer, the wholesaler, etc. Right? So maybe if you were to go and buy from the local kirana store, that local kirana store would have bought from a wholesaler, the wholesaler would have been stocking from the other stocking. People used to move around and right, and you started buying more stuff, so probably you started venturing out and spending into some of the things which were beyond essentials, right? And similarly, when it comes to the government level per se, you started seeing fiscal stimulus. That is one of the most important things India as a economy has done is direct benefit transfer. Right? So at least money were being transferred directly to the bank accounts of some of these households for them to sustain their livelihood, without work. So that kind of at least kept moving money from that household to taking care of the essentials in their house, and therefore the entire back end of that. Probably if you were buying, let's say, atta, then that atta required some milling plants to be active for the wheat to be converted to atta, which made the farmers active to probably go about doing their agricultural business as usual, right? So this is how everything is interconnected as a web in the economy, and small little changes here and there kind of opens up.
What we were seeing a lot of it about was the moratorium, right? So moratorium and the release of the moratorium, one of the important discussions that is currently happening in the economic world is Supreme Court allowing, or rather allowing the waiver of interest on the interest, right? So a lot of things. Basically a lot of things have kind of become essential for us. One of them is hygiene. I'm not sure when was it last when I would have gone and bought a lot of detergent soaps, a lot of masks, maybe um, uh, and if you see today, maybe even if you are using a big basket or if you are going to the local stores, you started seeing Dadi Ma Ka Nuska, immunity booster, etc., etc. So they have become an inherent part of our lifestyle today. And one other important thing that has happened, especially in metros and where people dependent on were dependent on lot of this mass rapid transport systems, be it the metro, be it the local trains, be it the local bus services, or maybe the Olas and the Ubers of the world. And I'm sure this is something that people in Mumbai, people in Delhi, and some of the larger cities would relate to. The dependency has fallen drastically, and people have moved to their own means of transport, right? So today, even if you have to go from point A to point B, you would prefer your own means of transport, if at all, if you're required to travel, right? So this is something that has now become inherent in our lifestyles. On the other hand, the element of technology or virtual presence or the digital presence has become significantly higher, right? As against probably a movie theater, probably the amount of time that we spend on a Netflix is significantly higher, a Prime Video, right? Ordering food, maybe if at all, if you're ordering food, you'll probably be ending up going to a Swiggy and a Zomato rather than visiting a restaurant. So a lot of your activities which were probably requiring you to move your hands and legs are now restricted to you moving your thumbs, right? So this is how a lot of businesses have evolved towards making themselves more relevant digitally by being present in your mobile phones rather than being a brick and mortar shop somewhere, right? So what basically summarizes the new normal for businesses to how to conduct themselves is kind of in the block below. Contract as selling, the amount of digitization, the presence of digital version of yourself as a business has gone up. Downtime, as in processes have become more efficient, as in at least the way they want to conduct their business, even in a physical setup, is to ensure that you are not at a particular place for more than X amount of time, right? So a lot of queuing systems have gotten developed, and maybe pre-order or pre-book your slots, etc., etc. And obviously, something linked to digitization is the e-commerce channels, as in more and more a mix of phygital, as they call it, a physical presence plus a digital presence, using physical modes of mechanisms to deliver or fulfill a demand. So, for example, I'm not sure, but I have seen in maybe when GeoMart came through, or maybe, and then even why GeoMart, let me make it very clear. As in, a Bisleri as a distribution model did not have drop at home services, but I have seen them being very active at drop at home services. You can order for your Bisleri bottle from your laptop or from your mobile phone, and they come and deliver at your place. So, which was probably not something which was as actively used as a service. And this links to a lot of strategic partnerships. So when I say strategic partnerships, some of the examples can be the cloud kitchen along with a Swiggy or along with a Zomato, right? So and maybe you can look up some of these other versions, for example, the Urban Company, etc., etc. And then people started experimenting on new offerings. So when I say new offerings, you would have probably seen maybe brands like Savlon coming out with their disinfectants. Maybe a lot of these companies who were manufacturing alcohol shifted their capabilities to start manufacturing sanitizer equivalent alcohols, right? And there are probably different other offerings that you can probably think through. Maybe more packaged foods, ready to eat foods that started coming up in the shelves as against a lot of these other businesses they were into, right? Probably one other example as an anecdote I can share. This is again from my experience in Mumbai. Uh, some of these marquee restaurants, let's say the Taj Mahal, the Tata Group's Taj Mahal Hotel, maybe even ITCs, etc., JW Marriott. So what they have done is they have created platforms where you can order in food at your place from these locations, which you are probably not seeing even a single footfall during these past 6 7 months, right? So people have experimented around their core values and that have started developing around it. One of the other examples, again anecdotal related to this space, is providing COVID quarantine facilities. So you would have probably seen some of these hotels being converted into COVID quarantine facilities, and depending upon your requirements, you could probably use that particular setup as a quarantining facility for yourself. So that was probably not an intended use of a hotel, but this is as a case study evolved, and they have gone about creating a business model around. So with this, this is something which I have picked up from one of the larger consultants' report. Um, this is in a way a slide which kind of quickly summarizes what is the expectations that the industry has around the pace of the recovery of these industries due to this slowdown, right? It kind of captures the pace at which it declined and what is the expected pace at which it is going to come back to, as in at least come back to what is a steady state, right? Uh, so medium impact and probably expected quick recoveries were the FMCGs. That is extremely evident, as in a lot of, as in we have not, as in this would probably fall in the category of essentials. Being at home, probably you have not stopped using a lot of your daily products, but you have probably gone up and stock more biscuits, more chips, more cakes, as against what you used to do, right? As in being at home, probably you are snacking more often. This is just an example. I'm just using it in a light-hearted manner. But look at yourselves more closely, and I'm sure a lot of us would be stocking some of the items more than what we were used to in our households. Uh, Maybe the other vehicle, the category of vehicles there, you can again split it into two parts. One is passenger vehicle and the two wheelers. Both of these have seen very, very sharp declines, primarily because there were no reasons for you to be traveling, right? And therefore, there was no reason for you to go and pick up any of these specific products per se. But then, what has triggered and what is expected to happen is more and more self mobility is expected, and therefore, what is going to happen is a lot of people will end up buying their own vehicles, maybe either a two wheeler or a passenger vehicle, and therefore it is expected that these are the segments which will come back faster, right? If you look at the shape of the recovery, it's an extreme V. The drop was extreme, and so the catch up to the average will also be at a very, very fast rate. And this has started showing up in some of the data that probably if you are tracking, you would have seen two wheelers pickup for the month of September has been very, very encouraging, right? So people are expecting that maybe by if the seasons go well, the agriculture produces good. Maybe December will see a complete recovery in the year-on-year growth projections around the two-wheelers vehicles per se, if not for the passenger vehicles, right? Similarly, I think I missed out on telecom. One of the interesting parts of telecom. Okay, so there are two elements to the telecom. One is the current ecosystem, which is probably moving from maybe a two, three player to an extremely competitive scenario around Geo's presence, the plans that Geo has in the country. But having said that, in general, I'm sure you are spending a lot of time on your telephones, on your mobile phones, on the Wi-Fi plans being provided, right? So the expectation is this is going to definitely go up. And as and when people start moving back to their office setups, when the data is taken care by the Wi-Fi or the broadband being provided by or the office infrastructure per se, your dependence on your telephony or your telecom players will probably shrink. And so probably this has been a counter-cyclical industry per se, but maybe I will again disclaim the statement that there are other elements which are in play in this segment, right? Then we come back to some of these sectors which have had a hit, and it is expected that the hit will linger on for a longer period in time. I think these are mostly to do with travel, right? And especially for travel, leisure travel, something that you used to probably end up enjoying when in a vacation, right? So, basic airline usage was mostly done for business purposes. So that has probably shrunk. Domestic, as in maybe for personal use, we will continue, but that will probably bring back the utilization of that airline sector to some extent. But having said that, it is not expected to be as high because a lot of people will either postpone their travel decisions or will end up being very careful around how they are going about their travel per se. And a direct impact of that is the hospitality business, right? So again, it is expected that the hospitality business, while it is expected to recover, it's probably not as great. Media has two parts in terms of, let's say, the public cinema halls versus the kind of content that was being showcased to you on TV channels. Because of the lockdown, you had seen a lot of content not being created, and whatever was the earlier content being used, and that kind of drops it down a little. But then again, when people go back to normalcy, it will probably be at pre-COVID levels. The decline was not as sharp, except for movie halls, probably a PVR or an INOX, as against some of these transmitters like a Sony or a ZTV, etc. Yeah. So with that, let us quickly, I think we probably have another 15, 20 minutes. So probably we'll quickly touch upon, while I have tried to kind of summarize most of our thoughts into the previous few slides, let us look at how people have kind of adapted to the situation. One of them, as one of the primest examples, will be the consumer sector, which is again fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, or any other service which kind of primarily helps you consume a service, right? So, I had indicated to you liquor companies. So, liquor companies have created ecosystems for allowing you to buy online and they're delivering it at your place. A lot of them have created some innovation around the packaging of it so that it is being made in a much more economical price point and economical size unit, right? Similarly, for some of these well-established FMCG brands, you would see that they have gone for product extension. So probably like Lifebuoy has started a spray, Domex has also started a spray, etc., etc. Godrej through the Goodness.me brand has also ventured into a lot of these health and hygiene products. Dabur, if you would have seen, you would have seen them come out with a vegetables washing liquid, right? Just to take care of the requirements and the scare of the virus being transmitted through what you buy from the markets, right? And then you had the Odonil as a brand launching hand sanitizers. Marico again has set up a medical hand sanitizer, has also launched its own brand around vegetable cleaning. Uh, with this, as in some of these products which have kind of become stronger around the base that they had created, for example, a Britannia or maybe a Sunrise of ITC. So they had already been market leaders in their space, right? Or maybe a lot of these masala players, or maybe some of these, if you can say, maybe a Nestle ka Maggi as a product, right? So these guys have kind of strengthened their brand position because of the value that they provided, and these becoming more and more relevant in a stay-at-home kind of consumption, like biscuits, breads, more of Maggi, more of sauces, more of ketchups, right? So these kind of industries have kind of grown to their strength and have delivered better results. And then you saw the Swiggies and the Zomatos who kind of swept out a lot of these restaurant businesses because you were not visiting a restaurant, you were to order through a Swiggy and a Zomato, and then they were able to generate more cash for being delivering from those same restaurants. And what one interesting aspect, and then probably you can look up, is the concept of a cloud kitchen. So a cloud kitchen doesn't exist as a brand in reality, but they create sub brands, and they are probably in some corner of the world with a fancy brand name, but their entire presence is through a app which is a Swiggy. So you probably not know how the cook looks or how the franchise looks, but you are happy with the product that they deliver, and therefore you are using them more and more, right? Just look up cloud kitchens as a business, and you will probably relate to it better. Okay. So with this, what has happened on the flip side of the FMCG? You saw food products and the grocery products suffering a lot in terms of this lockdown, as in probably a lot of these kirana stores went out of fashion, which in a way, the retailing units, as in wherever there was an element of a mall or wherever it was required for you to visit a particular store to buy that product, experience that product, and therefore consume that product. I'm sure none of you would have gone out and bought a new kurta or a new pair of jeans or some new fancy office suit, etc., or a tie, right? Or maybe shoes, right? Because these were requirements when you were probably utilizing them more in formal, semi-formal events. But today, if any one of you is picking up something, probably you will be picking up t-shirts, probably you will be picking up maybe track pants, etc., etc., as against some of the formal products, right? So these are the industries, and probably one of the other trends that I wanted to highlight is the relevance of Geo Mart in today's setup, the relevance of DMart, and DMart as a business has created a model of how do you put it, as in physical presence very close to your place. So you can probably order it online or pre-order it and then go and pick up your basket from their smaller little shop close to you in a neighborhood, right? Can we get going? Yeah. So one of the other segments which kind of significantly took off during this phase was the pharma sector. Within the pharma sector, again, you had seen a lot of these API manufacturers becoming more and more prominent. A lot of domestic uh, equipment, as in hospital equipment, getting fulfilled by domestic. As in, one of the best examples of this is your speaker of yesterday, Mr. Alva, who runs the Scanray. As in, they have seen significant amount of growth in their equipment sales in this period. Uh, Not only because of other reasons, but because they have become, as in this segment in as a whole, has been given a thrust because of the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, right? As in wherein India as an economy believes that we have the capability to manufacture and fulfill the demand from the local infrastructure itself, right? So also at some point in time, we, as in the globe as an economy, was dependent on China on a lot of pharma. Even today, there is a significant amount of dependency. But having said that, a lot of the manufacturing setup has kind of gotten converted to 1+1. So, which basically means in order to diversify geographically in terms of a manufacturing setup, people are looking at other options, I mean, apart from China or apart from wherever they were. So, and there are a lot of economies which are vying for that piece of cake. So, it could be primarily India, but you see a lot of Vietnam, Indonesia kind of markets who are trying to catch hold of these opportunities. But having said that, India has been traditionally very strong in pharma, and that has started playing to our advantage. Some of the new initiatives in this process was that were taken up by the pharma industry were about the way they were packaging it, the way they have used the e-pharmacy and digitization. So probably on the bottom left, you will see some of these e-pharmacy plays. And then more importantly, you started seeing a lot of it moving to the way it is being uh, stored and transported across, right? The glass vials, so which are probably more safe and safe in terms of hygiene wise, right? So having said that, how has it impacted the e-pharmacy place? So if you look up, as in you have now probably seen the relevance of the Practo, the relevance of the 1mg, and the entry of Amazon into retail pharmacies, right? So today you can also order medicines on Amazon, which was probably non-existent, at least in certain geography. As in, I think they have already kickstarted it in Bangalore and some few other cities. What also happened during this time is a lot of these e-pharmacy online plays that existed, for example, Pharmeasy or probably NetMeds, which were by default existing. There were maybe they were shifting. There were tectonic shifts happening in that space. So you saw Pharmacy acquiring MedLife, which anyways had also had Myra in its fold. Reliance very recently announced their acquisition of NetMeds as a platform in their Reliance Geo, the GeoMart platform, right? So in a way, pharmacies anyways have done significantly well, even the physical pharmacies, and there has been a shift of the retail pharmacy into the digital platforms. So again, one other sector which has done significantly well. Okay, so with this, as in, it is a reflection of how the pharma sector has performed even in the stock markets. It has kind of outperformed to an extent of 45% beyond the Nifty. The other part, the third element where I wanted to kind of highlight, which have kind of adapted or thrived in this circumstances, is technology, right? So as you would have seen in the recent newspaper articles, Mr. Ambani, Mr. Mukesh Ambani was quoted to say that data is the new oil, and that in a very very clear way summarizes, right, very strongly what is the impact that data has or the digital presence for us has in the today's context. And this is very evident the way you see this is something on a global scale that more and more companies are going digital, more and more companies are probably creating business models around technology as a delivery platform, right? So maybe 3 years back you did not hear terms like education tech, medical tech, maybe agriculture tech, right? So today you have fintech, edutech. A lot of it is in colloquial language, right? So this was probably not the case as late as 3 to 5 years ago, right? So things are rapidly moving, and having said that, a lot of it is around businesses trying to becoming more and more relevant and being more and more in your face through either your laptop, through your tablet, or through your mobile phone. And this is what I am trying to say is an increased digital spending, right? So this in a way kind of summarizes where technology spends and the technology trends are emerging in this kind of a pandemic situation. And with this, what has also happened is the use of technologies as an, not only for internet-based commerce, but technology as an enabler for running businesses in what is otherwise a traditional manufacturing setup. Okay, so maybe a use of more and more artificial intelligence around doing business, use of more robotics and digital process automation, using IoT, which is Internet of Things, around a lot of. Maybe you will start seeing your ability to probably cool your home from anywhere else in the world, right, before you arrive into the home, etc. So these are a lot of things which are kind of integrating instrumentation technology into day-to-day business cases, right? And as and when this becomes more and more important, you will start seeing a lot of it becoming an integral part of even your consumer electronics, right? Even today, if you recollect, if you visit any particular website, you have started seeing automated chatbots coming and saying, "Hi, can I help you?" etc. So look at it this way: every time a chatbot comes up and engages with you, it in a way is taking care of the necessity of having to maybe call center executive somewhere else, right? So a lot of it is becoming more and more interactive. machine learning and artificial intelligence driven. Right. So just to kind of leave this slide with how the legacy systems and the new digital technology presence is going to pan out. As in, you will see that the digital CAGR expected over the next 3-4 years is as high as 12% as against the normal legacy system. The normal legacy system means a banking system wherein you have to go, it punches something, or maybe your online ticketing system, or rather not online, your desktop ticketing system of a airline, right? Uh, so there will be a significant shift, and the movement will be significant. So now, these are some of the sectors where there have been some hiccups that have been experienced. So I have already highlighted the importance of financial services. Within financial, let us kind of, for the time being, for the lack of time, let us ignore the left-hand chart. Let us look at only the right-hand side chart. Within finance as a financial service as a market space, you have multiple layers of it. Let's say wholesale finance or microfinance, a SME financing, auto, as in basically your two-wheeler, three-wheeler, commercial vehicle financing, your infrastructure financing, your housing and affordable housing financing, and gold loans or gold financing, right? Uh, so the asset quality outlook and therefore the health of that particular smaller subsegment of BFSI is kind of depicted to you on the rightmost red, amber, green kind of a highlight. So affordable housing and gold finance, due to primarily due to gold finance's ability, the gold price where it is today has kind of given it the support. And any time you are in a little bit of financial uncertainty, your household gold becomes a currency for you to have access to some kind of liquid money. And this is that business model, and therefore it has thrived. On the other extreme, a wholesale finance where corporate lending, basically pure play corporate lending. So when the businesses are going slow with a limited amount of cash flow visibility, etc., the ability to price that risk has become a little difficult, and therefore lending credit to that segment has become difficult. Uh, um, is this okay, Pace? If you think I need to dwell deeper into it, you can question around any of the other segments. But for the paucity of time, I'm generally kind of going ahead. Is that all right? Okay. So I think this will be amongst the last few slides. The most hard hit sectors, as we had pointed out in a previous summary slide, is basically a lot of things to do with your travel and hospitality, right? And maybe a lot of it is also to do with the discretionary spending, right? So discretionary spending would also include you going to a water park, you going to a probably a long days vacation, or you planning to buy a high-end phone for the sake of it, right? So a lot of this discretionary spending requirements would have gotten curtailed as a household, right? So as I had explained earlier, some of these things, as in Marriott Wheels, all of them have started picking up. Having said that, some of these airlines have put their infrastructure to good use by using it as a freighter services, or for example, your e-commerce delivery point-to-point linkage systems, right? So that is how they have kind of adapted to the current business. And as I pointed out earlier, entertainment as a business has gotten replaced by Netflix, Amazon Video, and you have seen some of these larger, high-budget movies getting released on these platforms, right? So in a way, what I'm trying to kind of summarize is that every business, to an extent, has gotten impacted, and they have found out ways and mechanisms of kind of surviving through it till normalcy comes back. And with this, I think the quote of one of the greatest leaders India has seen. As a philosophy, you should not give up, and you should not allow the problem to defeat us. So let's see how we recover from the current pandemic situation. I'm extremely hopeful, and I'm sure that within the next 2-3 quarters, things might become normal, and this will be kind of catalyzed faster with the development of a vaccine and it being made available to all of us. So thank you once again for your time. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Sir, you have few questions.
Yeah,
The
please.
first question is from Dr. Purushottam TN. He has asked two questions.
Yes, please.
One is, why are successful ecosystems so rare? And the second question is, why do most business ecosystems fail?
Okay, so these are extremely interesting questions, and they are actually linked. Um, if I can, sorry for kind of dragging this analogy a little too far. Um, um, the probability of the human being as a species to exist is so low, right? But we have kind of created a space for ourselves in this ecosystem, right? So the point is there are so many factors which kind of are involved to get us to where we are, and that is true for even business ecosystems, right? So, keeping the philosophical side aside, uh, to answer doctor's question, let me make it slightly more simpler, right? So, for an ecosystem to survive, there are a couple of elements that are extremely important. First element is probably the ability to maneuver through uncertainties around what you have, right? So, having the nimble footedness to quickly change around a lot of things depending upon what situation you are in. The second part will be probably having as in for a business as a unit. Ultimately, business as a unit also depends as to what kind of leadership, what kind of direction setting that you have in place, right? So the ability to have a well well-oiled mechanism which focuses purely around execution, and execution being as important as the strategy is. So that is again another important aspect, right? And three, obviously, the ability to have the capital on your side. So maybe this is an element of finance into it, but you may be having a brilliant idea, but not having the right capital at the right time. You probably may not be a success. So there is okay. So this also brings in an element of luck. So maybe yes. And this, in a way, these 3 points, in a way, are also linked to his first question as to why is it rare. So, for all these three things to happen together, as in there are certain things which is within the scope of an entrepreneur or as an of an economy at large or of a policy making body at large. So the ability to have the maneuverability around the existing resources and the ability to put it to right use and making the most out of it is an element of not only good fortune but also an element of good thinking, right? So because of these three aspects or some of them not being available at the right moment, probably that leads to a lot of failure, or I would not say failure, but a lot of them falling off that track, and probably at some point in time they'll come back. But as of now, they probably do not deliver to their promise. Is it a satisfactory point, sir, or should I elaborate?
Another question
Yeah.
from Ms. Malini.
Yes.
Any suggestions how these affected areas can get to normal?
Yeah, okay, so it's a slightly generic question, Malini, but let me address you in a slightly, again, it probably will not be specific, but again, generic. So, what happens is a lot of us are, when I say a lot of us, it basically means a lot of advisors, a lot of this policy making bodies, a lot of this self industry bodies, right? So you have FICCI, CII, etc., who understand very well how the businesses operate on the ground. They understand very well what have been the technical challenges for each of these businesses, right? So they are able to relay their demands and requirements to the policy making body, and obviously there will be some element of hand holding that will be required at this stage providing some kind of stimulus directly or indirectly to some of these businesses. For example, you have seen some of these agriculture related requirements. Maybe I think more than that, you would have seen financial services as an industry being helped around directly or indirectly through a lot of these policies and stimulus, relaxation of some of these taxation requirements, extension of timelines around some of these payments, etc., etc. So in a way, see, it's very simple. As in, I will put it slightly differently. As I pointed out, economy is a giant machine with a lot of small gears interlinked to each other. If one fails, it has the capability of bringing everything to a standstill. But having said that, if you slowly turn that wheel, it also over a period of time will be able to go back to its top speed, right? So maybe from a 50,000 feet view, you will probably not be able to make out, but a closer look will probably let you realize that, okay, by taking care of this small little aspect, I can probably make big impact. So I'm 100% sure, and maybe at a district level, at a state level, at a central level, maybe globally, there are a lot of policy actions that are being taken around it. And more importantly, what we can also do, contribute to our little ways, as in probably you step out and purchase some of this local produce, probably take care and start giving out small little errands to maybe paint your outside wall, wherein you are not risking your family, but at least in a way providing employment to some people per se, right? So certain little things that we can do and certain little things that the policymakers will decide. Yeah. Does it answer your question? If you could ask me any specific sector, probably I can help, but this was a very generic response.
Yeah, sir. Only these questions were asked.
Sure.
Thank you for your valuable time and your informative presentation. Thank you,
very
sir.
much. Thank you again, all of you, for inviting me and allowing me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. It was extremely pleasurable experience to have spoken to you guys, and very inquisitive questions. I hope I have answered them. If you want to engage better around these questions, please feel free to write to me. As in, you can probably, I think, Ms. Pinto, you can probably share my email ID to anyone who would want to ask questions or engage further around this topic. I'll be very happy to help. Thank you so much.
Pleasant day to you all. I, Irene Marie Dove, take this opportunity to summarize the events that took place today. The first session was on climate change and credit risk management. We had Professor Rudiger Kizel, who spoke on how European countries and other developed countries monitor companies to control carbon emission. His highlights on Paris Agreement, Summit, and Clean Development Mechanism also gave a thorough insight to the participants. In the second session, we had Mr. Subrat Panda, who vividly described the various aspects of the impact of the pandemic to business ecosystems, how various sectors have gotten affected, adapted, and thrived amidst the COVID-19 times. He also emphasized on the upheaval happening across the globe, adapting to the new normal scenario by citing a lot of real-time examples. I hope you all have gained ample knowledge through these sessions. Thank you all for your active participation. We will meet with other issues of commerce and management like FDI in India and post-COVID market condition in India at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow. I request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form posted in the YouTube chat. Thank you all. Have a pleasant evening.
Recording.